Hi, I'm Devon Bailey with DNH Property Inspections. I'm a certified master inspector, CPI inspector with InterNACHI, and I'm out here today inspecting this 50-year-old home, rancher style. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home with a sunroom. Let's go see what we can find. We're about to begin the roof inspection per the InterNACHI standards of practice. And per their standards, we'll inspect the roof covering, the condition of the roof, penetrations, skylights, chimneys, gutters, downspouts. All right, so like the first thing I notice is these gutters are full of debris, lots of tree debris. You got the trees that are overhanging, so I'll be recommending to trim those back and to clean the gutters. Also, another thing just right away that I notice is that the underlayment runs under the drip edge. So you're going to be prone to water leakage under the drip edge, damaging soffit and fascia. That'll be noted in the report as well. All right, so I'm looking for the overall general condition of the roof covering and all roof penetrations, the chimney, and just as I access the roof here, the first thing I notice is some damage around the chimney area to some shingles. A little wear on the shingles that's kind of goes along with the age of this roof, but it looks like some damage that's possible hail damage in this around this chimney area. I will note that in the report. And the flashing, the metal flashing rusted in several areas. That'll also be on the report, and even some more damage. Yeah, several shingles damaged in this area. Some shingles back here look cool. Suspect or easily lifted, not well adhered. So you can get some water intrusion in that area for sure. And we have fasteners in this flashing that are not sealed, so you can get leakage there. On the vent pipes, I'm looking for the lead coverings. Looking for any damage, and you want them to go back into the vent so that you don't get leakage between the lead vent covers and the vent pipes themselves. And these actually look good. Paint has worn off. You know, while they're making repairs, they may want to paint those as well, keep them from rusting. And again, I'm seeing some wear in areas, especially this front field in the valleys. Again, I think it's pretty typical with the age of this roof, but I can see from here that the gutters along the front of the home are damaged as well. I can see that the flue pipe are rusted and with streaks down the shingles. That. Part of this as well, you can tell a lot about the structure from the roof level, and I can see a clear dip in this hip ridge. There's a clear dip there, so I'll make note of that. And when I go in the attic, I'll be looking for any more indications of any structural problems in the attic. And I can also see on this roof vent some hail strikes. It kind of goes along with what I was seeing on some of these shingles, especially over here in the chimney area. So there'll be some definite recommendations on this one. All right, so we just finished the rooftop portion of the inspection, and some items that I found were some damaged shingles, possible hail damage around the chimney area, some damage to a vent, again, looks like it's from hail, and then some rusted flue pipes, but overall good condition, and lots of debris in the gutters. So we probably have some issues with gutters overflowing, so we'll see what it looks like out here. All right, now we're beginning the exterior portion of the inspection. We're going to be looking for any kind of damage to exterior siding, fascia, trim work, issues with caulk, the brick veneer, cracks, deterioration, any kind of defects, and also adjacent walkways as well. All right, and since I know that there's access to the rear yard, I'm going to start at this fence and make my way around so I can just do one continuous path. All right, so I'm just looking for any kind of damage or deterioration of the brick, any cracks, a little bit of overhang here. Looks like there was a little bit of some spalling there. A little bit of an excessive overhang here of this brick. You know, so it could be losing some of its support. So when I see that, I'm looking for any cracks in the brick in that area, which actually I do not see here. These caulk joints are actually pretty nice. Again, I'm looking at soffit, fascia boards. Look at the gutter downspouts. Looks like they just used a pad there instead of a splash block or a gutter extension to get the water away. So we watch this area because you still could get water that is not flowing away from the foundation. All right, and there's the meter base. We'll just come back to that when we do the electrical portion of the inspection. I mean, this older house actually is looking pretty good. Again, another missing splash block or gutter extension. Ideally, we want to get that water away from the foundation because if it settles there, for one, you can get erosion just from the pressure of the water draining from the roof. And again, you don't want water just pooling there, and it can be detrimental to the foundation performance. Incidentally, we have some freeze board movement right here, which is an indicator of settlement. And we got a little more spalling here and ants. You know, we mentioned on the roof, we mentioned the gutters being full of debris, which that can lead to overflowing gutters and, you know, water problems. Another thing we had that we noticed on the roof was that the underlayment was wrong at the drip edge. The underlayment went under the drip edge or stopped short of it. So you can get water leaking under the drip edge and it can cause this. So we kind of have a double whammy here. We got the gutters and we have the underlayment issue, and we're seeing some signs of it being a problem with this damaged soffit and fascia, and that will definitely, you know, be in the report. Here we really don't want any foliage in contact with the exterior wall, and so you can see it's up here at the weep hole level. So we'd like to trim that away from the wall just to help prevent any wood destroying insect issues. We got some sort of wasp or hornet there. Again, some other areas. We can see the separated caulk there. Again, some more indicators of that roof leakage at the drip edge or the overflowing gutters. This walkway has several cracks in it with differential settlement as well too. So definitely want to keep an eye on it. It's completely severed there. If you get it if you get that differential, it can actually create a trip hazard. This walkway has sunken. You can see that the soil has covered it. More cracks. These porch post supports rotted. This one here as well. It's not as bad as the other one, but it's still got some rot. Again, looking for any cracks, any damage. It's okay. Here we can see where it's beginning to take on some damage. And you can see where they actually have repaired this at one point. There's a line there. So they repaired this piece. And the problem is that when this comes down to the concrete, it's just going to wick up the water from the concrete and cause moisture damage. And this side is actually worse. This was repaired at one point here. So this whole piece was repaired, but it rotted over again. Separated caulk as well. We have more of the freeze board movement, and we have the crack in the brick. All right, we got more freeze board movement here. And we have a corner pop or chunk, depending on what verbiage you like. So this chunk of the slab has come off. The brick here will lose some of its load-bearing support. And it's common to get the cracks when that happens. That's why it's a good idea to repair that area of the slab. It's actually a little soft there, and actually from this angle I can see better that more soffit damage there, soffit and fascia board. Again, in our area, especially this time of year, we get a lot of rain. So when you have those roof issues that we discussed with the drip edge flashing, and you have the gutters that are full of debris, you're real prone to get this moisture damage. That's why it's very, very important to maintain those gutters and keep them clean. So there's really evidence that there and even all along this joint has separated because of that moisture. All right, we'll have the air conditioner. We'll get to that on the heating and air conditioning portion of the inspection. We do have a crack here below this window. It is pretty vertical. Well, actually it cuts over here as well, down towards the dryer vent. Another crack here at this window that starts from the window, goes all the way down the wall to the slab. And here we got evidence of the gutter leaking. This strap is loose. Again, all those roof problems that I discussed earlier, leads to this. A lot of, that overflowing gutters and leakage at the drip edge. You get this. This even looks like this was probably a patch at some point and it's rotted out again. We have high soil in this flower bed. It's up to the weep holes. Ideally, you'd want that below, you'd want that a few inches below that bottom row of brick to prevent termites. And we notice there's another crack here below the window. We'll look for other indicators inside for structural movement. Again, we'd like a better form of drainage to get the water away from the roof, out away from the home. There's just a couple stepping stones here, and I can even see where some of the soil has eroded below the stones. So ideally, common around this area is that people will use splash blocks. That does a pretty decent job. The best thing would be like some sort of gutter extension or even a drain. Again, and then on something like this, when you have a large portion of the wall blocked, we're seeing a lot of this sunroom being blocked by these plants. I'll note that in the report. Okay, another hairline crack. Not uncommon in our area with our soil. We have a lot of clay in our soil here in this northeast part of Texas. So we get an awful lot of expansion and contraction of the soil. That's why the gutters are so important, because we want to control the water that is around our foundations. You know, we want to maintain the proper moisture levels of the soil around the home and the foundation for the optimum foundation performance. So here, you kind of, I know it's just one downspout, but there's an awful lot going on. Okay, we don't have any way to divert the water away from the home from this point, and you can see that it's just completely clogged. There was a screw in there, completely clogged. This is completely clogged, so there's nowhere for that water to go. So naturally, you're going to get the gutters overflowing, and sure enough, you're going to see some damage to the soffit. All right, and this home has a nice pergola here, a good place to sit and enjoy nice days or evenings. It's not really part of the standards of practice, but you know, we usually look at it and just look for any kind of obvious damage. It actually looks like they've taken well care of it. These big posts, it's pretty normal to get some splits. But it feels like a good solid structure. I like to really pay close attention to the base of these posts. A lot of times if there's damage, that's where it's going to show up. And actually, bingo, see? Right there. Again, if they don't have a good clearance, again, it's kind of like that wood around the garage. It just wicks that water up, and that's where it's going to damage. Same thing with this post over here. It's taking on a lot of damage at the base. All right, we just finished up the exterior portion of the inspection. Probably the biggest thing that I found was moisture damage to the soffit fascia boards, pretty much around the exterior here. So what I'm going to recommend to my client is number one, that we get the gutters taken care of, get them cleaned, get any damage repaired. We want the water flowing away from the home as well, because another thing that I found was erosion at some of those gutter termination points. So we just want to make sure that we take care of that, so we take care of our foundations, because that's very important here in Texas. All right, and now we're about to begin the foundation basement portion of the inspection. Here in Texas, it's not common at all to have a basement. So at this house, we have a slab on grade foundation. All right, here at the driveway, we've had a lot of differential settlement of this driveway. We got this part has settled down that way. This part drops more this way. And you can see it goes along really what we're seeing with these cracks as well. So we have a crack here. We have a long crack here where it's even separated. And it's differential settlement. So this area of the concrete is higher than this area in this driveway. Here, even more cracking this way. That's a little more typical. And then we have some more differential settlement along this area. So for this, you can try patching it, but you'll need to monitor it, because if it's still settling, it's just going to reopen. There are some other fixes where they can come in and they can inject. Basically, it's a foam that can raise the concrete and support it. you can go that far as taking care of this issue. Or it may have, this home was built in the 80s. It may have already done its settling. So you can monitor and see what it's doing. If it's getting worse, you may need to do something like the foam injection. If it's not getting worse, you could just patch it. All right, now we come to the heating portion of the inspection, and the inspector shall operate the system using normal operating controls. Right. The inspector shall describe the type of heating system, the energy source, the location of the thermostat, and the heating method. All right, so we have the thermostat here. It's in the living room. It is on heat already, so I'm just going to turn it up a few degrees so we can test it. All right, so I'm just going to come to some registers here. So here, when I'm testing heat, the magic number for me is 100 out of a supply register. And it looks like they're all good, 100 or above. All right, so we're here at the furnace. It's in the garage closet. First of all, there is a filter. And you can see if I get some room to actually open this door. You know, we'll check it to see if it's clean. And there's really not room to see. So the A coil is on top, so we're not going to see the A coil. Part of our Texas standards is that if we can see the A coil, we'll know whether it's clean or not. So this filter door is missing the screw, so it's loose. You know, so that's an easy fix that I'm going to recommend. It looks like it matches the outside unit. Yes, 10/23, March 2023. So it matches the outside unit, and it's the same brand. I'm assuming that they had the inside and outside unit replaced at the same time. So on the flue pipe, there's not a flue collar. I can see that all the way up to the attic. I mean, to the roof, sorry. All right, and then part of our Texas standards is that we have to get a differential for cooling between the supply and return air. So we'll do that when we go inside. But one thing here, actually a couple things, there is no, here with a Trek, it's supposed to have a drip leg on the gas line. We don't have that. And then also we're missing the protective clamp. This flex material is not supposed to go through the cabinet. All right, that's automatic write-up for a safety hazard with our Trek standards of practice. All right, we finished the heating portion of the inspection. Now we're to the cooling. Very similar, using normal operating controls, which would be this thermostat here. We're going to operate the system. And one difference I would like to note that we're here in Texas, so the Trek standards of practice, they want us to get a differential between the supply and return air between 14 and 22 degrees. So I will be looking for that in addition. So I'm just going to turn this thermostat down. And I'm going to put it on cool. I'm going to turn it down a few more degrees to keep the system running, so it gives me time to get my temperature differential. All right, so I'm going to get some temperatures at supply air registers in different rooms. If they are available to me, I try to get every register that I can. So I like to get as many registers as possible because it could be an indicator of other issues, you know, beyond just my supply and return differential. For instance, if a temperature is too high or too low, It'll help direct me to look for certain maybe supply duct issues in the attic. Or other problems. So this unit only has one return, okay? So it's right here near the thermostat. Okay, so we were within that range of 14 to 22 degrees between supply and return air in this home. All right, we're outside looking at the condensing unit, part of the air conditioning system. So here in Texas, it's very common to have a split type system. This looks like it's going to be it's not a heat pump, but heat pumps are quite common here. They work well in this environment. Not so much up north where it gets really cold. So this is pretty typical type of system. This is a Bryant, and so I'm just checking for any defects in it. This looks fairly new. Cutoff switches here. We want it to be nice and level on the pad. And usually the clients want to know the date of manufacturer. Sometimes when manufacturers are nice, they'll actually put the date on here, and sure enough they did. So this one was manufactured in February of 2023. So it's a relatively new unit. Here we are, 2025. And then some of them you have to look up the serial number to get the date code. But this one actually looks good. There's not a lot of vegetation around it, so this one can breathe. The fins look nice. Yeah, so it looks good. That completes the heating and cooling portion of the inspection. Couple things that I'm definitely going to recommend to my client is the flex line that goes into the cabinet, not allowed because it can be damaged by the sharp edge of the cabinet on the heating side of things. On the cooling, this closet mounted unit does not have a secondary drain line. So if this leaks, even though this is the garage here, this wall is adjacent to the interior portion of the house, and so is that back wall. So if this leaks, it's going to get into the home. As well, if it leaks below, it's going to go out into the living room floor. So I'm definitely going to recommend a secondary drain that would go towards the exterior of the home, and a safety switch that they can put in there that would cut the unit off so it would prevent it from leaking any further. And that would protect the interior of the home. All right, now we're doing the plumbing portion of the inspection. The inspector shall identify the main water shutoff, the gas fuel shutoff, the water heater, including energy source, whether it has a temperature pressure relief valve drain line, seismic bracing, and to run all of the plumbing fixtures for supply and for drainage, and check for any defects, leaks, or otherwise. Part of my standards of practice is identifying where the water meter is. At this house, it is located in the front yard near the sidewalk. I'm going to remove the access. Look at this meter is covered in mud. So we would like to have that cleaned out just so you have access to it. Because another thing about this home is there's not a shutoff. The shutoff is here. So if they had to shut off water inside their home, say they had a leak, they're having to come here. So that would be another recommendation of mine, is to add an easily accessible shutoff so that the homeowner can shut their water off if there's flooding in the home. All right, so we have the water heater here in the garage closet. I noticed there's no flue collar. We want that installed. That helps to keep the flue pipe from contacting combustible materials. And I can actually stand up here so I can get a good look at the connections. And they actually have the, if you notice here, they have the dielectric fittings. That helps prevent corrosion at connections. That looks good. We got the draft hood. Looks like it's positioned well. This is a 40-gallon gas unit. It does not have the drip leg on the gas line, so I'll let my clients know that. It's got the temperature pressure relief valve. Got to have that safety device, and it does have this PEX material is approved for this usage as a temperature pressure relief valve drain line. What I would like to see is I have a drip pan, but if that's not going to hold much water if this leaks. So I would like to see either a shutoff switch or a drain line from the drip pan that terminates at the exterior of the home, so that if it leaks, it does not damage any material in the home. All right, so now we're in this restroom here, and we're going to start checking the fixtures. I always like to check the hot supply first, and I just want to make sure that I have hot water before I add cold to it. So we already see an issue here. So this diverter here is not working. So it's down. Water should just be coming from the tub spout, but as you can see, it's also running from the shower head. Other way with it, now it's the shower head. So I'm checking for any leaks, see if the supply line it's a little loose in the wall there. I check the tub spout as well. That's nice and tight. They could use some caulk around the scutcheon rings. And I'm going to let that run while I test the other fixtures. I checked the toilet. It's loose at the base, so that can damage the wax ring there, which can lead to leakage. So I'm going to recommend that to my client, that we get this checked out, because you want the commode to be secured to the floor. This sink is missing the drain stop. Again, I'm going to start with hot. And every time I do a sink, I'm going to look underneath. All right, another thing I'm going to mention is that there's corrosion at the angle stop valve, which can be indicative of a leak, maybe a past leak. In this case, I don't see an active leak, so I think it had leaked at some point. So I'll recommend, that a plumber, look at that, clean it up, see if there's an active leak, and repair as needed. The other valve, the cold valve, looks good and clean. I don't see any corrosion there. So it's just on that hot side. And while I'm under here, I'm going to look at the drain lines. So we have PVC drains, and we have copper supply lines. No active leakage. All right, so I've been letting the shower run, and you can see that the drain is slow. Sometimes if you're just running the tub spout, you can get where it's not draining quite as fast, but not to this level, and certainly not while it's just a shower running. So we're going to recommend that they have the drain cleaned by a professional. All right, now we're in the primary bathroom. We'll basically follow the same format. This time I'm going to start with the sink, but start with the hot. Check underneath, because you don't want to flood someone's house if it has a leak there. This one, the angle stop valves look clean, and I can see that copper line. So this is copper as well. So copper supply, PVC drain. Okay, we got good hot water. I'm gonna turn on the cold. This toilet is a little loose as well. Yeah. So both commodes need to be reset. Need that wax ring checked as well. Because with that much movement, there could be damage to the wax ring already. So I would recommend the plumber remove it, check the wax ring, reset it, and secure it to the floor. A good rule of thumb is to always flush a toilet or commode at least twice. All right, so this is a stand-up shower. So on the showers, on the surrounds, we want to check all the caulk joints. Make sure they're nice and tight. Make sure the base feels solid. And again, I'm going to use my indicator all the way there on hot. I'm going to start with hot. I'm going to go ahead and close the shower curtain some because I don't want to get water all over their floor. Already hot water. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that down. Now I can actually see in that drain, I can get a good visual inside that drain and tell that it's PVC and it looks clear. I'm going to let it fill up and then I'm going to drain it. Another thing I check for is any water damage, you know, underneath. I see some discoloration, but I do see some discoloration under there. And then I check the cabinets as well, because that can let you know if there was a past leak and if there's could be other issues going on if you had water damage that was not taken care of, or that's in a high humid area, you know, possible viral growth. So these cabinets are full of items, and so I'm going to mention that in my report. I'll actually take pictures of any areas that my view is obstructed. So this sink drained just fine, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. And again, the shower, another thing you want to look for is when it drains that you don't have water that's pooling away from the drain. So this shower, all the water is landing, you know, on the end opposite the shower head, and it's draining right towards the drain. So this shower has a good slope to it. And then all the water is running straight to the drain. So we don't have any pooling water. Looking for any moisture stains or damage outside the tub area. That's a real hot spot. Lots of homes I go to, baseboards will have water damage to them, or the wall. So any indicator of where possible water could be leaking. If there's a cabinet, there's a little linen closet here behind this shower. So I would check that area too, because that would tell me if there was a leak inside the wall. If I can get a clear view of something, I really try to do that. I don't see any moisture stains, no indication of a water leak in that wall. Okay, that completes the plumbing portion of the inspection. My recommendations to my clients would be, number one, I would add another shutoff if you can, that's easily accessible for the homeowner. Number two, I would get both toilets checked out by a plumber. Make sure the wax rings are not damaged because they had a lot of play in them. They were very loose. Get them reset and secured to the floor. Number three, I'd have that drain checked in that hallway bathroom tub. And number four, I would have the corrosion cleaned up at the angle stop valve in the hall bathroom sink. All right, so now we're beginning the electrical portion of the inspection. Inspector shall inspect the meter base, the service lateral or drop, the mast. You're looking for the drip loop. And then inside we're looking for plugs, switches, GFCI, AFCI protection, the main service panel, and light fixtures and switches. So here on this home, we have a We have our meter base here. All right, we have overhead service. All right, we do have a loop. The mast looks good and secure. It looks level. The boot at the mast on the roof looks sealed. And that's another thing that I could see while I was on the roof itself. One thing I'm noticing missing here is a source of grounding. Typically we would see a driven ground rod at the meter base with a grounding wire attached to it. And I see none here. All right, so that could be an issue. Sometimes on these older homes, I'll see where they'll have a cold water ground, which nowadays, if you have that, you want a secondary source of grounding because of plumbing repairs that can be made. You're switching from, a copper pipe to say like a PEX line, which is very popular down here in Texas. So you would lose that grounding source. All right, so we got the main electrical panel located in the closet, not allowed by today's standards, common for the age of this house. But again, that will be in my report as a deficiency. Another thing I'm going to note in the report is the lack of working space, and that's kind of because it's located in the closet. This panel is an obvious upgrade from the age of the home from original construction, but a couple other deficiencies that we have. One in Texas in particular is the lack of a whole home surge protection. That wasn't something required until 2020. So it'll be in my report, but I also let the client know that that is something that's relatively new. And then there are no arc fault type breakers in this panel. Again, given the age of the home, I would not expect to see that. It is definitely a worthwhile upgrade, and it is listed as a deficiency in the report as well. All right, so I'm going to follow the service entrance conductors. All right, they look good. They are copper, so no antioxidant grease required. All right, then I'm going to look at the other circuits entering the panel. All right, and so one thing that I'm noticing is that it's missing like the safety clamps or bushings where the circuits enter the panel because they're in danger of becoming damaged by the sharp edges of the panel itself. So we want to see, safety clamps or bushings there. Or you might hear them called grommets as well. All right, so then I'm just going to follow the circuits down. I'm looking for any, well, for one, I'm looking for correct sizing of the wires going to the breakers. I'm looking for any evidence of overheating. And another big one that I look for are double tap breakers. There's actually certain breakers are designed where you can have two wires go into them. These are not them, but there are no double tap breakers either. And then I'm looking for my neutral wires. We want one neutral per screw at the neutral bus bars. So there's definitely some things that I'm going to tell my client, and we're going to have it further evaluated by an electrician, and any repairs that need to be made, have them made. All right, so now we're inside the home doing the electrical portion of the inspection. We're going to take a representative number of receptacles and we're going to test them with my tester. Okay. Now, since it's here in the kitchen, I'm going to test it for the GFCI function. And you can see nothing is happening. So the requirement now is that all kitchen receptacles should be GFCI protected. Now, when this home was built, that may not have been the requirement. One thing in Texas, per Texas Real Estate Commission standards of practice, is that we still have to mark that as deficient, even if it was not required when the home was built. So I try to get every accessible receptacle in the kitchen area and check that for GFCI. Same with bathrooms, exterior, and garage. Now, another deficiency that I'm going to point out on this receptacle, not only is it not GFCI protected, which you can see, it is also loose, which is also a hazard. Any electrical deficiencies that I find, well, most of them, I recommend that they be further evaluated by a licensed electrician and repairs made by a licensed qualified electrician, just for safety reasons. And we're going to operate switches that we come to and check for lighting. This one is probably on a three-way switch. It is. So 2 switches operate that fixture. And while we're in here, there's another accessible plug that I can test. Now this receptacle is not required to be GFCI protected. Incidentally, by today's standards, a plug like this would be arc fault protected. We would check that in the breaker panel. Unfortunately, we cannot get to the breaker panel, so we're unable to see if arc faults are here. My assumption is, given the situation with the GFCI receptacles, that in the age of this home, that we would not find arc faults here. So the electrician could look for that when they make the panel accessible. All right, and this plug here shows open ground with my testing device. Yes, open ground. And this receptacle here shows reverse polarity with my testing device. That means that the hot wire and the neutral wire are switched. All right, and that can be a safety hazard as well, so we'll want to get that corrected. All right, I'm going to check this bathroom for GFCI. And it is not GFCI protected. Primary bathroom is not GFCI protected. Okay, now we're to the fireplace portion of the inspection. All right, the inspector is to describe the type of fireplace it is, the, again, fuel source, the damper, and also the lintel. All right, this is a gas log fireplace. You're not required to operate it. The gas is off to this unit. We're gonna check for, is it dirty? We got a crack. Yeah, a crack right there. Even over here a little bit. All right. Okay. Now I will say this is a gas log, so gas equipped. It should have a damper clamp. This one does not. Also, the lintel has rust, and so does the damper itself. I'm opening the damper. I'll take a look. The damper does operate. The damper does operate correctly, but we want to get it, it's dirty, needs to be cleaned. The rust is indicative of possible, leakage above, which kind of goes along with some of the things that I saw on the roof as well. So we'll want to get that checked out, and then we'll want to get these cracks repaired in the fireplace. All right, we're going to start the attic portion of the inspection. On this, where the inspector shall identify the type and the presence of insulation that's in the attic, also the ventilation, including bathroom vents, kitchen exhaust vent, and look for other things like moisture intrusion, damaged framing, etc. To begin with, you want safe access to the attic. So, these stairs have been around a while. They look like they're in generally good condition. There is some damage here to this portion. Doesn't appear to really be on the stair itself, so I'm going to go ahead and access it. It's always safety first, so if there's ever anything that you don't feel safe doing, then don't do it, because safety first. Okay, so first of all, I want to safely navigate the attic. If there are no walk boards, then you generally do not want to walk through the attic, because you're going to be responsible if you, well, for one, you can get injured if you fall through the ceiling, and for two, you're going to be responsible for the damage. So this attic, I actually feel, you know, it's okay with, because I can actually see the ceiling joist. Okay, so I'm looking around at the insulation. All right, so, you know, some areas there's a little more than others, but you can pretty much see the ceiling joist. You know, they're average 5 to 6 inches of insulation. All right, another thing, while I'm up here, I'm taking note of the ductwork, and it's metal insulated ductwork. You can see that it's rigid, more rigid, so it's not the flex duct. And all of the ductwork is insulated. All right, then I'm just looking at the attic framing in general. So I'm going to methodically scan the framing. I'm looking at the roof sheathing as well while I'm doing this. I'm looking for any moisture stains. I'm looking to make sure I have enough support for the roof. So I'm checking, you know, rafters, purlins, struts, you know, the vertical framing members. I noticed that there's been some repairs made. There's some new wood there, several pieces actually, right where I'm at. And then even when I was on the roof, I noticed a dip. You can see that. A dip kind of on that hip ridge that was over the garage. And I see that in here. I see where they added supports because of that. You know, so it looks like what they did was they just supported that hip ridge where it was at so that it would not fall further. And then I see moisture staining right around that flue pipe of the furnace. So that was a leak there. Okay, so based on some of what I saw on the roof, I would recommend further evaluation of that area by a roofing specialist, and any leaks be repaired. Most electrical wiring you're not going to see because of being under insulation, but there are some areas that we can see, so I will inspect that. And I notice where this valley comes up between me and the chimney. Now notice that valley area, there's no support under there. All right, we have a rafter that comes from the ridge down. All right, and then it's meeting that valley rafter. It's meeting it right there, and there's no support underneath, and you can even see where this board comes out. You can see where it meets that rafter, where it's separated. I can see the nails. All right, so there's a gap there. So we don't have support underneath, so that valley has actually dropped some. You can even see where the roof decking has dropped some. I can see the edge of that roof decking. All right, and that's all because there's no support there. So I am going to recommend that a framing specialist or other qualified professional further evaluate the attic support and add support as needed. All right, now we're to the interior portion of the home. One thing just to note, if you're going to go inside someone's home, wear these nice shoe covers. I got my CPI shoe covers that I always wear inside homes. Now on interior, we're going to do a representative number of doors and windows. We're going to test those just by operating them, opening them, closing them. We're going to check the floors, ceiling, walls, any railings, stairways. Now this is a single level home, so there are no stairways in this house. So we'll get started. Just one thing to note on the InterNACHI standards of practice, you do not have to do storm windows or doors. Now, if I'm just, I literally had to open this door to enter this home, so I'm inspecting it, right? All right, so we're just going to check the seal. We're going to check the framing. You just a little bit of past damage there. It looked like they did some repair there. So we're just going to check it for a good seal. So I'm just going to open it, make sure it's square. It is. It's got a little bit of play in it. Yeah, a little bit of play. You might could get a little better seal on it, but it's pretty good. All right, so we'll hit an interior door. All right, so I'll just close this door. This door actually does not latch. All right, so we'll check for any other signs here. I see no cracks whatsoever in the wall. Okay, so I'll just note that this door does not latch. Now, per the InterNACHI standards, you do not have to move any furniture to get to anything. So, but of course, if it's something like this, just a small chair, I'm going to move it. Remember that the InterNACHI standards are that's the minimum. You can go beyond that. A lot of times I go beyond it. One reason could be because of Trek standards. Another reason just can be client expectations, for my service. But here's another door that's not latching. All right, on this door, so it looks like it's out of square. We have a bigger gap here than here. And we have a crack above this same door. So we have multiple indicators of some settlement. And inside, I do see it's not as pronounced as this crack, but there is one present, a couple cracks above this doorway. All right, so keeping in mind the couple doors in this room that did not latch, the door out of square, so I keep all that in mind, and then I feel floor slope this way. So floor slope towards the window. All right, now I do see a hairline crack below the window here. These windows have been upgraded from the original construction, and this window operates appropriately. No moisture intrusion. All right, another indicator, I see some tape twist. All right, so I believe we've had some settlement here. Go to this closet door. No, we won't. Now this one is not going to open because of this device. But if you look top left of the closet, there's another crack. Okay, there's another crack. All right, let's try the door. Does not latch. Again, I feel floor slope this way, like it slopes towards the front of the home. So I can easily get to this window. I'm going to test it. And ants. All right, now we're in the primary bedroom. Test the door. This one latches just fine. Ooh, that's heavy. That's covered. Here we go. Kitchen. There we go. This window. Pretty good. All right, now we're going to inspect the garage door and opener. All right, part of that would be identifying the type of door it is. This is a metal overhead garage door. A big part of our inspection is the opener itself and the safety features. So first I'm going to operate the door itself. So metal overhead door. We got chain drive, opener. All right, and then we have tension springs. All right, so we're just going to, I'm checking the springs. They actually look newer. You know, they look like they're still, you know, well oiled. Checking the cables. Okay, I can see that cable. The door went down fine. It could have a better seal. You can see that the bottom panel is bent a little bit. So we have that daylight coming through. And on the ends. On the far end, a little hard to see because of the trash can. But you can see some daylight coming through there. So that I'm sure that bottom seal has some issues. So I'm going to run it back up and check that bottom seal. Okay. Sure enough, it you know, stops a little short here. Okay. Here we have the daylight just because of the door being bent itself, and it could have some unevenness of the slab. And then does not go all the way to the end here, so that's why we're seeing daylight on this end as well. All right, so now I'm going to check the safety sensors, and we do that by just pushing the button, and we use something to break the beams. In this case, I just use my foot. All right, another safety feature is you want the door to have the auto reverse if it comes down on an object. So I test this because I'm thinking that, you know, if it's me and it came down on like my kid or something, or my favorite pet, I don't want the door to reverse. And it does. Really did not take very much pressure at all for the door to reverse, so that's good. All right, that completes the interior portion of the inspection. The big takeaway from the interior was the signs of settlement that I felt, particularly on these front 2 bedroom areas of the home, that they appear to slope towards the front of the home. And the indicators were, you know, cracks in the walls, the floor slope itself, and some doors that do not latch. So I'm going to recommend that they have the foundation checked out and make sure that there's no repairs that are necessary, especially given the issues that we had with the guttering system, and we had some erosion, we had some water ponding, and then the drainage issues because of the gutter problems. All right, so we just finished inspecting this 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, and some of the big takeaways was we had some roof issues with some drainage, mainly involving the guttering system. We had some framing issues with the attic. We're needing some more support there. We have some foundation issues. So I'm going to recommend that they have the roof looked at, that they have a framing specialist come in and check out the attic, make sure it's framed properly. There definitely needs to be some support at it there. And I also want the foundation checked out, make sure that they don't need any more work with that. So I'll prepare them a nice report. I'll send it to them, and then they can get with the appropriate professionals to deal with those issues. Once again, this is Devon Bailey with DNH Property Inspections. You can find me on the internet at dnhpropertyinspections.com. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter as well, DNH Property Inspections. Until next time, stay safe.